Should I still stick with N8N, or is OpenAI Agent Builder going to be the future? Today I'll be answering that question by showing you what OpenAI Agent Builder is, how it compares to N8N, and my overall take on it. If you don't know me, my name is Han. I've been helping clients automate parts of their business for the past 6 months now, and today I just want to share my thoughts about OpenAI Agent Builder and what it means for N8N. OpenAI Agent Builder is OpenAI's first step in making it possible for anyone to build production-grade agentic chatbots. Here's what you need to know about OpenAI Agent Builder in less than a minute. OpenAI Agent Builder is powered by AgentKit, which is their framework that allows building, deploying, and optimizing agentic chatbots extremely intuitive for non-technical folks. The clean and intuitive user interface plus additional features like built-in guardrails and native vector store makes it extremely easy to build RAG-based AI chatbots. The massive differentiator is the ability to generate clean and professional-looking widgets that can be embedded within the chatbot's responses, and this is absolutely mind-blowing. Then you can deploy these AI chatbots with just one click and finally continuously observe the agent's behavior and improve it via evals. So the question is, how does this compare to N8N? At the core, OpenAI's Agent Builder revolves around a single mission, which is to allow you to build a chat experience that can be easily deployed on your web page to interact with customers or intranet for internal use, for example. Think of it like creating your own personal ChatGPT with the additional functionality of being able to deploy it to websites and also a whole bunch of customizations that you can do. For example, adding guardrails, conditional logics, and transforming your data. And so putting this into perspective, this N8N workflow right here sums up what OpenAI Agent Builder is. So let me give you an example. I have an illustration here where I compare side by side of the AI agent within OpenAI Agent Builder and then also the workflow that we just saw. And so within this right-hand side column here, you'll see a bunch of configurations that you can perform in the AI agent node. So if we look at the highlighted sections, and what you're seeing here is that the blue, green, and orange boxes are all already currently available within N8N, except for the red box that is an added bonus. So for the blue box, which is asking for the prompt, we already have that in the prompt user message and system message. As you can see, you're a helpful assistant. And then we also have the same exact message right here. And then we have the green box, which is include chat history. You can tweak the model. You can tweak the reasoning, which is low, high, medium, for example. And you can also add tools. In terms of tools, it is quite limited, which I'll show you in a second. And then you can also tweak the output format. Now, we already have all of those in N8N AI agent as well. For example, we have this one here, which allows us to tweak the AI model. And then we have the memory, which allows us to remember past conversations. We have simple vector store, which essentially allows us to use embeddings and then extract from vector databases. We also have MCP clients, Think 2 as well, which is the reasoning effort. Except in this case, we can't really determine whether we want it to have low reasoning, high reasoning, etc. It is quite standard. And then the last one is the structured output parser, which is similar to output format. Except one thing that I wanted to call out in terms of the output format is that within the agent builder, you will actually see in output format, we have this additional thing called widget, which I'll show you in a second, but this is pretty cool. Now in this orange box, you'll see that we have two parameters. One is verbosity and the second one is summary. Now we don't have these one-to-one in N8N, but it exists in slightly different forms. So for example, for verbosity, we can always still provide in the system message of how verbose we want the output to be by explicitly stating that in the system prompt. And then for summary, we have this thing called a summarization chain here, where you can essentially just have the AI agent produce some output and then feed that into a summarization chain, which will then go ahead to summarize your output. Now, I think where OpenAI Agent Builder did exceptionally well is, number one, how easy they made it to configure your AI agents. For example, within this green box, you'll see include chat history. And traditionally within N8N, for example, the way that you would do this is you need to go into AI agent, and then you will need to add options and return intermediate steps. And what we do here is essentially we're saying, every time when the AI agent provides an output, we don't just see the output, but we also see the input that is fed to the AI agent and also the processing. And so all of this can then be fed into the next AI agent, for example, to provide further context. Because each agent node, for example, if we have two separate agents like that, each of these AI agent 1 and Agent 2 will only retain context within their own environment. And so if the only way that we can pass, context from this agent into this agent, including not just the output but input and processing, is by turning this on and then passing all of those variables into the user prompt here. Now in OpenAI Agent Builder, you can easily do this by just turning on include chat history, because if I just highlight this, right, you'll see that it says chat history includes the user input and any output from previous agent nodes, right? And so that's exactly what it's doing, is taking in everything. In fact, every agent within the workflow would have a shared memory in some ways, whereas in N8N, that is not the case. So that's chat history. And then the second thing is they've also made these model parameters very easy to configure as well. For example, verbosity and summary, where you can just toggle it and say, how verbose do you want it to be? Do you want it to be high, low, etc.? And that will essentially dictate the length of your output and how detailed it gets. And also the summary, for example, whether you want it to be detailed or just a normal summary. In general, within N8N, sometimes you might forget to include these model parameters, and so just having them here and having them easily tweaked is just a very good way to make sure that when you set these AI agents up, you remember about these and then also set this accordingly. And then the second thing that OpenAI did really well is the configuration options that is available. For example, here we can toggle reasoning efforts, which we can't do on N8N. For example, within the Think tool here, you see that there isn't really an option to do so. And then the second thing is the output format. So if you go to an agent, for example, in this workflow, you'll see that within the approval agent, we have output format as a widget. And if we click into this widget, this is what we'll get. We'll see this email. And basically what this means is if we feed in 2 documents, it will then go through the process of reconciling and then automatically writing an email for us about the reconciliation. So let me just run this workflow and you'll see what I mean. So I'm just going to click preview and then I'm going to upload. And then you see that it'll start running. It'll then ask about my decision on whether or not the reconciliation is correct. So here it says, please review the proposed reconciliation for approval. Let's say if I click approve, then it will just go to approval agent where it will then generate the widget for me, which you'll see in a second. So I'm going to click approve and then you see that it's now running and then we will get the widget right here. And so you see that I can either click send email or discard. And of course, this is just a test environment. And so if I click this, it will actually work. Imagine if this is in an internal CMS, for example, and your employees can just upload 2 documents and the output that comes out would be still within the chat, but you have an email like that, which your employees can then just hit send and it will just automate the whole process within the agentic workflow. And there are 2 ways to essentially create these widgets. So if I just go here, and if I just change this to widget, you'll see that I can click add widget. And there's 2 options. One is create or upload. And so if you don't have a downloaded widget that is ready, you can just go to create. And then you can click whatever that you want to create. For example, in this case, I have, let's say we have this task widget, right, which is the exact same widget that we see just now. Just that I just kind of like ran a task on it. And so let's say if you want to then use this, you can just click download, you get a file, and then you can just upload it here. And then the last thing is this chat kit section right here. So we have display response in chat and also shows search sources. Oh, that's really hard to pronounce. So anyways, this is not really available within N8N, right? Because you can't really show what the agent is thinking, and then maybe you can actually, yeah. If you enable streaming here at options, enable streaming, I think you can actually do that. I'm not too sure. This simulates more of the ChatGPT response where it kind of like shows you it's thinking before it actually generates the output. So this is display response in chat, and then you also have show search sources where it will then provide citations and stuff, which is something that's available in Perplexity, but you can't really do that, at least not easily within N8N. Now, if you zoom out and take a look at the functionality in general, so not just the agent, but also these functionalities here as well, there are 2 things that set OpenAI Agent Builder apart from tools like N8N. So the first is guardrails, and you see that within guardrails, there is a lot of things that you can kind of like toggle. The first is PII. So if it detects, personally identifiable information, then it would kind of like say, fail, and then you can end the workflow. There's also moderation, where if it detects harmful content, whether it's hate, harassment, or sexual content, and then jailbreak is attempts for prompt injection, hallucination, etc. This is just a really convenient thing to have. And this is something that we don't have in N8N. And everything happens manually at the moment, where you have to provide within the system prompt to specifically do all these things. And sometimes it still doesn't work, because let's say if your prompt is like a large prompt and this is like buried somewhere within a prompt and the AI agent doesn't catch on it. And the second thing is the vector database, which they have made it extremely simple to implement. Let me show you how, right? So if you just go to agent, files, search, right? And so here you can either just upload your files or you can select a vector store. So if you just upload your files, you can just go to any document and just pull it and just drag them in here. Otherwise, if you want to select a vector store, you can also do that by just going here, like this add files button here, upload your files, and then OpenAI will just go ahead and do all the embeddings for you, chunking, embeddings, etc. Whereas within N8N, what you usually need to do is to go through a process like this, where you will need to set everything up yourself, right? You need to chunk your document, and then you need to select your vector database. We need to then set the metadata of the documents. For example, here we have file ID, file title, etc. And these are just different ways to inform the AI about how it will extract your data given the user prompt. All of these things are already inherently being managed by OpenAI within Agent Builder. And so it just makes the whole process a lot simpler that way. And the second thing is the ability to optimize your AI agents. So if you look at their docs, you'll see that they have this third bucket here, which is optimize. And it says build robust evals to observe and improve agent performance. Now, this is a feature that I've been waiting very long in N8N. Unfortunately, it's not available on the self-hosted plan, although I think they have a very clunky version of it on the cloud-hosted platform. But I think OpenAI should be able to do this relatively well. And if you look at evaluations, you'll see that you have some tracing here, and you can also type in your evaluation criteria here to assess and improve your models. With that said, there are two limitations when it comes to OpenAI Agent Builder in general. The first is that the functionality is very limited to only agentic chatbots. What I mean by this is the way that you use this is by talking to the chatbot, and the only output that you will get is also within the chatbot, which comes in three formats. First is text, a JSON output, or a widget. And so what this means is within the workflow, and you also cannot make changes or edits to any external apps. For example, Telegram, WhatsApp chatbot, write emails, populate Google Sheets, etc. Whereas with tools like N8N, you can use it for all sorts of triggers and output in all sorts of ways. The second limitation is limited data source. There are only two ways to get access to data within N8N. The first is through uploading your own files or a limited set of apps via the MCP. But the problem is, as you can see from this MCP node, it has a very limited set of apps available. Whereas within N8N, you can access data from external apps via HTTP requests, webhook, third-party apps, etc. So what does this mean for N8N? To me, in my opinion, I think N8N will become like a general purpose tool where you use for all sorts of AI automation workflows. But when it comes to specific use cases that only involves AI agents, and you don't really need data from all sorts of applications, and you also need the benefit of being able to upload it very easily and for free in your own websites, for example, then this is where OpenAI Agent Builder can come in very handy. So here are my final thoughts. If you're starting out in AI automation and you want to know about which tool should I use, I'll say learn both in general, because I can see that depending on the solutions that you sell, you may use OpenAI Agent Builder or you might use N8N. If you need to build an AI chatbot that you can easily deploy it in website and then also having the benefit of using the widget, OpenAI Agent Builder is definitely the tool that you want to use. Whereas if you're working on something that requires data from multiple sources and it doesn't involve a chat interface, then I think you still have to resort back to N8N. Personally, for me, I'm very excited about the fact that I can, now optimize agents. I'll definitely try that out more, and I might make a video about that. Alright guys, that's all for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.